We're going to give you our take on what's going on in the condo market. And all that being said, Daniel, there is your baton pass. Up to you. Take over, please.
Where do I grab it from? I grab it from here. What's going on today, Peter? Happy Friday. Hey, before we jump into real estate, did you, I know you were all giddy about going to see cricket last week, and I didn't make it.
Dude, tremendous. There were 6 days of matches. I made it out for 5. If you listen to any of the broadcasters, they were all bitching and moaning and whining about how it always rains in South Florida. All matches except one played the full course. One of them was shortened because of rain. They do this thing with a time increment. Lo and behold, they go to Texas for the playoffs. That's the headquarters of Major League Cricket. Anybody who doesn't know cricket, there's 6 teams. This is the 3rd season. It's basically a 1-month tournament. They started in Oakland. They then went to Texas, place called what's it called? Grand Prairie outside Dallas. Then they came to Lauderhill. And we heard all week long about the rain in South Florida. Then they wrap up in South Florida. They go back to Texas for the playoffs. And what happens the first game? Washed out. What happens the second game? Delay. So I, of course, got on social media and let everybody know, you guys need to start questioning Texas now, the same way you were questioning South Florida. South Florida did very well. There was a big turnout capacity at the stadium over there in Lauderhill, 441 and Sunrise. I think they got 2,000 people or so. Doesn't sound like a big number, but in a
it's
first
cricket in
visit,
the United States. Come on,
it's cricket in the United States.
Realistic.
2,000 people is what came out. Seating capacity, by the way, of the venue is 10,000. The reason it is last year South Florida hosted the World Cup. Much of it was rained out. I will give the organizers credit for that. Much of it was rained out, but it showed that South Florida is a viable place for cricket, and hopefully going forward, there's going to be the season's going to be participating every year in South Florida, and hopefully we get ourselves a cricket team where they can basically represent South Florida. And what is South Florida? It's basically a lot of people from the Caribbean basin. So that would be Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad, stuff like that. But excellent cricket, excellent showing, excellent time. And I topped it off with some fantastic roti over at a place called Joy's, which effectively in the Trinidadian community is the equivalent of Versailles in the Cuban community. So fantastic weekend. Yep.
I'm learning something new every day.
It's awesome. And by the way, if you do go to a Trinidadian restaurant or a Trini restaurant, just make sure to try to get U.S. I don't know what you would how you would classify the heat. U.S. low heat.
Yeah, any of these restaurants, if they have a 1 to 5 heat scale, which I do appreciate, just instead of mild and not mild, I get it like a 2.
Oh no, dude! I tell them, listen, give me, like when I go to a Thai place, I say, give me a Thai 5. For me, you cannot sweat enough.
You're a sicko. You got to go to there's a great Thai place in the Grove at Chana's, and they're
is that the place inside the Quickie Mart? Is that like the
that's
takeaway
Asian
joint?
Thai Market 2, which is going.
Okay.
Thank you, Alan Morris, your buddy. Chana's is the place on the other corner. Right on the corner of Commodore.
By McDonald and Grand.
Yeah. Right across the street from the post office.
Yes. I've heard about it. I never think to go there.
No, that place is great, and he's a real hot sauce aficionado. So if you like it spicy, I'm just telling you, Peter. I'm not telling everybody else, because every time I talk about something, I tell anybody who my barber is, I can't get into the restaurant, I can't get my hair cut. I just gotta shut the fuck up.
Yep. Listen, that's what kind of happens. Although, I don't know if you've been on the street lately, especially at night. I was walking through the Grove last night. Thursday nights typically are, they're good nights. Thursday night is when all the University of Miami students, which now are gone because it is over. But that's the night a lot of people go out. Dude, dead last night. Nobody on the streets on a Thursday night in the Grove at 9 o'clock.
Because you obviously didn't walk down Bird Avenue, because I was at Flanagan's on Wednesday night. Wednesday night at 9:30, there was a 66-minute wait for a 4-top at Flanagan's. That place was booming.
Unbelievable.
You know what? It is believable because it's Flanagan's. And
that's true.
It's good. I sweat through my sleep until about 2:30 in the morning. But it was well worth it. And my breath, I think, still might taste like sugary barbecue sauce. But let's have it at that. That's enough for culture. Let's dive into it. What's going on in the condo market, Peter?
Well, I spent the week basically doing due diligence on an area. I'm going to be doing a tour tomorrow. I do tours, walking tours, 3-hour tours, walk about 4 miles, give people a handout of all the different projects, and I teach them how to analyze condo buildings. Because I'm a believer, if you're looking for a condo, you find buildings. Then once you got the buildings, then you have a short list and you go after units. Too many people chase around looking at this unit, that unit. They find a beautiful unit, Daniel, and lo and behold, they get the condo declaration or they get the rules or they get the budget and they say, oh my God, there's no way I can afford it. I don't want it. It's too expensive.
Right.
So we kind of do it the opposite way. So anticipation of my tour tomorrow, what I did is I did due diligence in the central business district of Greater Delta, Miami, which would be the Miami River north of the MacArthur Causeway, and then the Bay west of Interstate 95. Dude, let me tell you, shocking. 25 months of supply in that central business
months
district.
Of supply. Wow.
25 months.
And Peter, in your due diligence, do you go in the Miami-Dade Clerk of Court's website and pull the recorded decks? Is that part of your due diligence?
Well, I did that way back when, but we've been tracking this stuff for 20 years. And as a result, I already have a lot of it built up. So what I do collect is like new projects. Like one of the ones I was looking into this week was Flow House.
Ooh,
that's the Adam Newman one. Yeah. The guy from WeWork. So supposedly he's peddling some condo called Flow House. It's on Miami Avenue, right by the network access point of the Americas.
He's got two of those.
Well, that's what they say, but according to the clerk of the court, there was no kind of declaration of condominium filed. So I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt because every realtor on the street is peddling the product, which, by the way, is north of $900 a square foot, overlooking what used to be the old Miami Arena, which is right next to the Overtown Metro Rail station. They went north of $900 a foot for that type of product. It's built as a rental.
They're small units.
Very, very small. I think the studios are south of 400 square feet or so, but it's got a starting price north of 400,000 a door. So just sort of think about that. So you're talking big numbers. But yeah, I use county records to just sort of verify stuff. But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. We're calling it a condo. But what's interesting, Daniel, I'm doing my study. 34 condo projects within that MacArthur Causeway South, Miami River 95 to the Bay. But what's also interesting is, believe it or not, and this part shocked me, Central Business District now is basically a push and equal to the total number of units in the Biscayne Boulevard corridor, which is Edgewater, Midtown, Wynwood. If you can think about that. Basically, 24% of the market is going to be in Central Business District. Another, 26% will be in the Edgewater, Midtown, Wynwood area. So talk about blowing it up. And the reason they're doing it, they're putting up so many damn towers. It's unbelievable number of towers they're putting up. They're shoehorning them in everywhere, and all the prices north of 900 a foot. Most are north of 1,000 a foot for no view whatsoever. But you got your walking distance to the Apple Store and Club 11.
Well, my iPhone is so reliable, I never have to go to the Apple Store, Peter. I think it is such a miss that Apple did not put an Apple Store in that plaza development in Coral Gables. I live in Coral Gables, and back in the day, the first Apple Store in Miami, I don't know if you remember this, was all the way down to the Falls on US 1.
Oh, that's going way back.
Way back. And then they put one in Dadeland.
Yep.
And then Brickell City Center opened, they put the one on Lincoln Road. That was number 3. They got Brickell City Center.
Yeah, but I think they had 2 on Lincoln Road, didn't they? I don't know if they were transitioning.
No. They changed the location.
They changed the location, yeah, because one was off Meridian, and then the other one
right. So you can access it from Lincoln Road and then from the parking lot in the back.
Yep.
But I thought it was such a miss with the demographics of Coral Gables. I would think that Coral Gables would get an Apple Store, but woulda, shoulda, coulda. I don't think Apple necessarily needs the extra business. But in terms of that district, I was actually walking around World Center the other day. Great restaurants. They've attracted top-notch retail. Apple. They got. I think they opened up a bowling alley there. Didn't they open up a bowling alley there?
If it's opened, I've not been. There's a lot of banners talking about what's coming. Short of the ice cream museum. Nothing really is from what I've seen is open. I mean, you got a Container Store and you got a gym and things like that. I guess there is some retail. There's a Lululemon, I think. But you know what though? I don't see
move into the neighborhood.
But I don't see anybody. There's nobody on the street. It kind of reminds me of Brickell City Center when it first opened. There was
Well,
nobody in that place.
everybody's in their apartment recording OnlyFans during the day, Peter.
Or they're at cricket on the weekends if it was last week.
I would actually like to know how many residents of the Central Business District attended cricket last weekend. I bet you it was
Zero.
zero.
Absolutely zero. Nobody whatsoever. Most of the people who were there,
akin to the amount of people that go to Marlins games, basically.
Yeah, for the most part. Although the Marlins were advertising they're having $1 hot dog day, and if you go to the Sedanos in Little Havana, you can get Marlins tickets for $5. So if you think about it, you walk to the stadium, $5 in, $1 hot dogs. Hey, nothing wrong. I mean, might not be good for your health, but for your wallet, it's probably pretty good value.
So the article you sent me, we were
Yes.
we had this. We've discussed this quite a bit in the past. Especially last week, we were talking about HB 913 and the repercussions of that. Those laws went into effect, most of them on July 1st. But there's a particular facet of this that is interesting. There are two properties that we're going to talk about. One is the Carillon on the beach, and the other is the Epic in downtown. They were carved out, as I understand it, right? But what are the implications of the new HB 917, the condo relief bill that Ron DeSantis signed a few weeks ago? What are the consequences of that in terms of the condo hotels?
Okay, so I'm not an attorney. I'm not practicing law. I'm going to read some parts from an article that was published, and then I'm just going to sort of opine based on experience. A lot of the attorneys out there, they get pissed off if you start talking about things, but they say, well, you can't talk about it because you're not an attorney. No, but I'm somebody who's been around. I can read an article and I can have an opinion on that. So I don't think there's anything like that. So if you need legal advice, call some attorney. But let me sort of give you my perspective. So generally speaking, what's always happened down here is developers look for a way to sell a condo that can turn around and be rented out pretty frequently. They were doing this before the Airbnb phenomenon sort of came around. They call it condo hotel, condo tels, whatever the case may be. Now the people I've known,
that's like the Ritz-Carlton has a lot of these programs. Key Biscayne has.
Yep.
129 of those units are condo hotel units, right?
Four Seasons,
and so what?
Over in the Marquee on Biscayne Boulevard.
Right.
Everybody's got, go to the old, what is it? The Ritz-Carlton in Bell Harbor. I mean, they typically put a hotel component, and the way it normally works is you take a building, you carve it up. It could be two buildings, it could be one building. They typically have separate entrances. One's for the hotel. In terms of elevators, they'll have a bank of elevators. One part is for the hotel, the other part is going to be for the residences, and then they share a swimming pool. There's a conference center space, all a variety of different things. But what's inevitably has happened is condo buyers, they go in there and they think, oh, well, this is great. I can live a resort luxury type of lifestyle. But lo and behold, if you get into the condo declaration, from my experience, what happens is the hotel gets to call the shots. They're having an event and they say, listen, we are shutting down the swimming pool. Tough shit. You can't use the swimming pool this weekend. And this created a lot of havoc. And the other thing is the associations work in unison. So you got the hotel and you got the condo, the residential side. And inevitably, if there's a shortfall or if the hotel fails, i.e. during COVID or anything like that, the condo owners, from what I've seen, they got to make up the difference. In terms of basically they subsidize the hotel to keep it going. Much like some of these old time hotel or condos, they used to have restaurants. Remember they had restaurants inside some of these condos?
Yeah, like you look at the Grove Isle Association.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So the unit owners are paying to kind of have that service, and that's really what the condo hotel was. But for a lot of people, it was, if you're a second home buyer, if you're an investor, i.e. investor, you could go ahead and buy one of these condo hotels. You turn it up into their program. They would let the same, let's say it's JW Marriott or Ritz or whatever, they could handle all of the leasing of your room. And, they'll do the cleaning, they'll do everything, and they'll kind of give you the difference. So in theory, it sounded excellent. In reality, it's been a disaster for many people that I know, simply because if a hotel operates at 70% occupancy per month or per night, there's always going to be units that are dark. And then how do you differentiate, or how do you decide which rooms are full and which ones aren't? So there's always been concerns and claims of cronyism. Somebody's slipping somebody some cash at the front desk somebody walks in last minute, they were not booking online. How do you decide which unit is going to get filled? So there's all kinds of problems that's been going on. But the condo association residents, they haven't really had a lot of ability to push back on the hotel operator. They're almost like the colonists. They come in, they got control, they do whatever the hell they want, and you should feel fortunate because you got the brand of that hotel on the hotel, on the tower, from my perspective. So, as part of HB 913, there's an article, and I'm going to refer to that. And what the article, the headline is: Florida condo reform could open floodgates, in quotes, of litigation. And just a couple little tidbits that I thought were interesting. It says condo hotels are properties where individual units are privately owned, but the entire building is operated as a hotel, a common setup in Florida, especially along the coast. This type of arrangement offers several benefits to owners, including the opportunity to live in a luxurious vacation property while paying a more affordable price and potentially making a profitable investment. However, it's also been plagued by problems, including limited control owners have over the building's management and the financial burden of paying common area fees. So fast forward to the legislation that just passed and went into effect July the 1st, and there is an attorney who is quoted. Let me see if I can find this attorney's name. His name is Stefan J. Pardo. He's a founding partner of Pardo, Jackson, Gainsbourg, and Shelowitz. It's supposedly a leading authority on Florida construction and corporate hospitality law. So, according to Mr. Pardo, the legislation may represent the only opportunity for many condo associations, and particularly those in mixed-use condo hotels and condo projects, to revisit years of potentially improper shared facility assessments. He goes on to say associations can now seek declaration of their condo unit owner rights and seek damages for overassessments caused by these unlawful structures. So I guess what I'm telling you, Daniel, is get ready, law firms are going to start suing. So if you're a condo operator, you don't know what the hell or a hotel operator, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Maybe the numbers aren't being produced. You know you're backstopped by the condo association because every single unit owner is going to basically have to subsidize to keep the thing afloat. And basically they didn't have any kind of pushback. They didn't have the ability to control or kind of force any kind of, let's say, corporate efficiency. Now potentially this might open up the doors because it's going to bring some transparency, and it's going to get the attorneys who might be hurting for business a great opportunity to kind of run down some of these big ticket hotel operators, and they're willing to write a check rather than actually go to trial.
So do you know how many condo hotels there are in Dade County?
I do not. What I will tell you is increasingly, because of the advent of Airbnb, they've come on, I'd say in the last 10 years. They were kind of sparse. One of the first ones, remember, serve me correct, one of the first condo hotels down here was done by a Brazilian gentleman. He came and he did the one in the Grove right there by the Mutiny. So that was one of the first condo hotels. It was done like
Sonesta was the flag on it, right?
Yeah, it was a Sonesta flag, correct. Yeah, but he did it in the 90s. Brazilian gentleman. He used to be with Lionstone Lionheart Capital. Yeah. Ophir and Ricardo. Yeah, but they were credited with doing one of the first ones. And it was a concept that was common in Brazil. They brought it up here. They acquired the Mutiny site, which is the famous drug lord hotel from the 1980s and 70s. Hotel Scarface, exactly. And then in addition, they also had an undeveloped site where they were able to do it. But they've been around, but they've been a disaster for many investors. I know people who basically lost their ass because before Airbnb, if they didn't want to work with the management company, because again, concerns about corruption, concerns about favoritism, they tried to do it on their own. But before Airbnb, it was basically a disaster.
They would cut them out. Well, I would imagine, and with the advent of Airbnb, the projects that are taking this over, and we got to jump to the next topic, but all of these BTR, build to rent, STR, synonymous, short-term rental friendly buildings, those have really taken over, and they cut the hotel management company out. They put that responsibility on the owner. You are the captain of your own ship.
Yep.
You make the Airbnb listing. Our condo deck allows for 1-day rentals, 2-day rentals, whatever the minimum is. And you can do that, and now it's a shiny new page on the marketing collateral for these condo buildings. Oh, you can rent this out for short-term rentals. Those buildings, by the way, many of them in the Central Business District and in Wold Center are short-term rental friendly. they sold like hotcakes. Granted, it was during the pandemic when everything was selling like hotcakes. But when those deliver, which they'll be delivering on a rolling basis and over the next year or so, are those going to be sellable when these
Of course
folks
they're not.
realize
No way.
that?
No way. Well, they are if the price gets low enough. But
Well,
if you're
if
talking
the price gets
1,200,
low enough, but as they said right now, some of those units were selling studios for $1,100 a square foot. You're
yeah,
not
but that's what I'm
recouping
saying.
that.
I mean, the numbers will. I mean, just take my
Yeah, are you going to say the
my
1%
one
rule?
percent rule. Take the 1% rule, dude. Let's just call it 1,000 a foot, 500 square foot hotel room, if you will, 500. So
500 square foot
and
hotel, so that's a suite because most hotel
yeah,
rooms
it's
aren't even
basically a
that big.
suite. Run the numbers on that. What kind of rent you got to be pulling down per month? And keep in mind, if and when you turn it over to a traditional condo hotel, not only do they have to manage it and they charge you for it, but they also charge you a cleaning fee because they send their own staff in there to do it. And when they decide to remodel because they're going with a different theme for the particular season,
You have
you
to
got to
do it.
pay
Yeah, you
to
got to do it. I mean,
upgrade the entire
well,
place.
that's what's happening. That's what's happening in Key Biscayne at the Ritz Carlton. GenCom comes in. They say, "I want a $100 million renovation." If you're an owner, you're part of the party. But we got to jump on.
And by the way, you got
go.
you need to buy the furniture and do the work through their specific vendor, which is probably somebody's
their
brother-in-law
vendor.
or sister-in-law.
Yeah. All right, jumping in. Wait.
So I am a buy on that, by the way. I'm happy. Transparency brings all kinds of understanding. People can make educated decisions. They can make dumb decisions, but as long as they got the numbers and they got the information, this hopefully will clean up the condo hotel industry and possibly even the Airbnb game down here in South Florida.
I'm a buy too, Peter. Biscayne 21. We talked about it a few weeks ago. For all of you who don't know, Biscayne 21, future supposed site of the Edition Residences. Edition, for those of you who don't know, is a global hotel chain. Who's the guy who started that? The nightclub guy from New York.
Ian Schrager.
Yeah, Ian Schrager. So Ian Schrager was brought on. He created the Edition. Marriott either purchased them or purchased a percentage of them. Now they're part of the Marriott flag. Well, they're launching their Edition Residences. Well, they launched it. Two Roads Development tried a condo buyout, which is very popular. And a condo buyout is basically where a developer comes in and says, hey, condo owners, we're going to give you usually above market value for your condos so we can knock down your building and build sexy new units. And usually it goes swimmingly. Usually. With Biscayne 21, it didn't. So what happened with Biscayne 21 is Biscayne 21's condo deck said, this is a 100% unanimous building. What does that mean? That means that 100% of the owners have to say, okay, we'll sell. What the developer saw was a condo deck that said, if you acquire more than 80%, you can change the rules of the condo deck. And that was their interpretation. That was their attorney's interpretation. And so that's what they did. The 8 holdouts in the building sued. And the courts have ruled, and the appeal courts have ruled again and again and again, that the holdouts are right. The tricky part is the Edition has been collecting deposits for better part of 3 years now, and Two Roads is paying carry. I don't know if they're having to pay the Edition licensing fees to use their name to sell condos, probably, right? And they offered the holdouts $20 million. And what did the holdouts say? The holdouts said, great, that's awesome. We want 51. We want $51 million. And so this went back to the District Court of Appeals, and the decision came back just yesterday, and they said the holdouts are in the right. So, Peter, I pose a question to you. We've talked about, it seems like we talk about condo determinations almost weekly here. What is this going to do? Oh, and need I mention, they had Perez go to bat for them. With
George Perez from the Related Group?
Yeah, George Perez from the Related Group. They, Real Deal reported that George Perez went to bat for the developer and to plea effectively saying, hey, like this sets a really big precedent. And it does, but ultimately the condo deck says what the condo deck says. Don't fuck with the condo deck. if you needed a unanimous decision, you need a unanimous decision. And listen, I get it. And it's awful that they tried to do something and it didn't work. But if you look at the other side of this coin, that building is, by the way, it's inhabitable. There's nobody living in it. So those holdouts, I can only assume, and maybe an attorney can point me through this timeline, but so they still own those condos. They're still having to pay mortgages if they have a mortgage, right? They didn't sell it. They're still having to pay property taxes. They don't live there. This isn't Biscayne 21 isn't the Mandarin Oriental. This isn't an ultra luxury building. These are people who probably don't want to or can't afford 2 mortgages. So the developer is really fucking with these guys because this is ongoing and they're not taking what was offered, the $20 million that was offered. They want the 51. So what, douchey, not douchey. I'd say douchey by the developer. Is the developer incurring crazy costs as well? Yeah, sure. But read the documentation. And what does this mean for condo terminations moving forward? I mean, are developers going to point to Biscayne? Oh, we don't want another Biscayne 21 situation, or are they just going to go full steam ahead because there is so much money to be made in luxury new construction high rises?
Couple points. If anybody is familiar with South Florida, you're familiar with Coconut Grove. If you go into Coconut Grove and you buy a house and you want to tear it down or you want to do anything, or if you want to pare your trees, you want to trim your trees, get ready for a fight. Why? Because the locals are going to dig in and they're going to grind it out. What does it have to do with Biscayne 21? Real simple. Biscayne 21, it was an old shithole building. It had surface parking lot, plenty of dirt, basically between 21st and 22nd east of Biscayne Boulevard, right over there by Paramount Bay Condo Tower, right by Unity Church, all that type of stuff. Right next to it, a rental tower went up. So here's the point. They were coming up on the 40-year recertification, which is something that applies to Dade and Broward County before Surfside, where you had to go and you had to do stuff. So they had this old shithole building. They could have very easily, because we were on the upswing of the boom, they could have very easily terminated at the time, and they decided they were not going to terminate. Why? Because they loved living where they were. They had these great views, even though it was a piece of shit building. It was underutilized. It was obsolete. They decided not to terminate. Everybody came to them with offers. They passed on it. So for the group out of West Palm Beach, who did Biscayne Beach, for them to go forward and think that they were going to outsmart a bunch of people who are digging in, like in Coconut Grove. If you go into Grove and you think you're going to breeze through it and you're going to grease some politician's hand and you're going to make it happen, it's not going to happen. That was the same thing with this project. They didn't read the room well, I would tell you, and that's probably because they're not locals. They were coming in from out of town. They put up the one project. They figured, okay, we're going to parlay it. We're going to bring in the Edition name brand. We're going to make a lot of stuff different happen. Then they run into a group, small little contingent, that decide they're going to fight it. They're going to fight it. Why? Not because they gave 2 shits about the project, but what I think is probably going on, I think they got a backstop. I think they got private equity behind them who sees this as an opportunity basically to shake down whoever this developer is and or make the developer go away and watch for something a little bit more macro perspective is the way it looks to me, because I don't see how these people can continue to go through with the lawsuit. They have to pay to live somewhere else. They have to continue to maintain the property as is. Right. And the dollar figure we're talking about, 51 million, if you just run it, what'd you say, 8 unit owners by $51 million? You're talking about a hell of a payout. What is that, $5 million or so? $6 million a door for your unit. Plus they're going to want attorney's fees. On top of it. This to me sounds like it's very well orchestrated by somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. They know what the sweet spot is, and they're probably hoping that there's going to be some sort of combination. Why not take equity in the new project if you're one of these 8 unit owners? Dude, take it. Let me get equity in that project. You go forward. I don't want a unit. I want equity. I want this. I want that. So there's somebody very smart who's behind the scenes, I think, that's driving this. Because if you've ever been in that building, and I knew people live in it, it was a shithole. It was absolutely obsolete. There was no reason to go through the 40 recertification and do everything that was necessary. So they did not read the room well. They probably have smart people behind them. And more importantly, to George Perez and any other developer around here, the court finally stood firm, and they're saying, listen, it is what it is. If the law is this, you need to stand up and do the right thing. So whether you are excavating a site and you find all kind of burials,
which we're going to,
you don't want to let it be known publicly, You need to adhere to what the law is. Unfortunately, the court so far has ruled in favor of the unit owners. I'm not rooting for the unit owners. It's a piece of shit. It's going to get torn down. But there is something in real estate called statutes of fraud. And I'm not an attorney. I'm not practicing law. But basically, if it's in writing in real estate, it counts. If it's not in writing, good luck enforcing it. This stuff was in writing. They had smart people telling them, and they're going to shake down these developers, especially for the fact that the developer had pre-sold so much of this building. The sales center is still open. I don't know if they're still manning it, but they still have the signage up over. It's over in Paramount Bay, right across the street. So the burn on it. At some point, somebody has to call uncle, or it's got to be a taco trade. You got to check it. Somebody's going to have to chicken out, and it is real clear unit owners are not checking out. So that developer is going to have to bend a knee somehow and pay them and or JV with them, because it's not going anywhere. And before you know it, this market, from what I'm seeing statistically, these guys are going to be on the wrong side of the trade. And now you're going to have to add a couple more years on top of it, besides the legal part of it.
So I'm buying it.
I would too. I mean, listen, the dirt, excellent piece of dirt.
Oh, it's a great property.
Yeah,
have it pulled up.
It's got water on two sides. Typically, you get water on one side. You get up in that area, maybe because they changed the street and they build it north south, so the views are east west. This one, you're going to have it on the east side and you're going to have it on the south side, and even the north views. You're going to be able to look in the distance and see the Julia Tuttle Causeway. Great piece of dirt, kudos to those unit owners for standing firm. Although I don't think they're doing it on their own. I think they got a real backstop behind them.
So you alluded to something when I switched around our rundown.
Oh, that was intentional.
Yeah, I saw that. You really thread the needle there. So it came out in the news, I think it was on the front page of the Herald last week, that, Related cannot catch a break with these freaking burial sites. Or maybe they're everywhere and Related's the only people who are getting caught digging these things up. But we're talking about the archaeology site at the St. Regis. So came out in the paper that
but Daniel, I think you need to lay the scene for people.
So
in terms of going back in the day before Ponce de Leon.
Before Ponce de Leon, before the pyramids of Giza is what Bob Carr's saying. Bob Carr, local archaeologist, he's the head of the Archaeological Historical Conservancy, Inc., which is basically the firm, the consultancy that all these developers wound up hiring when they find bones and burial grounds and little huts when they're excavating these condominium sites. So Miami, as it's set up, we have Brickell and downtown, and then flowing through it is the Miami River. What used to get built at the mouths of rivers? Villages. And so these Indians were here however many thousands of years ago, which is estimated they were here for thousands of years, or they were here thousands of years ago on Brickell Key. The Tequesta Indians, because when they built Brickell Key, there were Indian remains left there. And Miami Circle, that's where the icon went up. That's what, you can put at least 2 towers where Miami Circle was. That was a Related Group project. The Baccarat a few years ago.
No. I think that Circle was Michael Bauman.
It was Michael Bauman.
Michael Bauman, because the state paid him to piss off and go away, and then he took the money and built Skyline, he built a rental, and then they turned it into Skyline.
That was Bauman. Hi, Alex.
Because I remember the old shithole that used to be on top of the Miami Circle way back in the day. Remember, what were they, 2-3 story, like cheap rentals?
Oh, that's way before my time. I'm not that old, Peter. So it was Bauman, and then Baccarat, which is also Related. This was 2 years ago. Very public, because the community around them claimed that Related sort of swept it under the rug and kept it under wraps. And then there was an op-ed written by George Perez, and he was effectively pleading to the community, hey, listen, guys, I've spent no less than $20 million, stopped construction for a year and a half. I hired Robert Carr. I'm trying to do everything right. Just let me build my fucking building. Sorry about the cursing. Frickin' building. And then he hands off the reins to Nikki and JP, his sons. They're building the St. Regis. It looks very nice. And what do they find on the 3-acre site? Remains. So I gotta imagine that this happens way more. I mean, I'm not saying this is a conspiracy theory, but if you find Indian remains in Brickell Key, and at the mouth of the river, and you have a giant excavation site that was Brickell City Center. I don't think they found anything at Brickell City Center. And then you're going all the way down Brickell Avenue to the St. Regis. There were two villages and there were no villages between there. There's got to be Indian remains all over downtown in Brickell. And listen, we've spoken about this. I love progress. I want developers to be able to build their products. I understand and I have sympathy for a developer who bought 2 acres of dirt and then all of a sudden a bunch of conservationists are saying, hey, a third of that dirt you can't build on. Sorry, you're fucked. Go back to the drawing board. But do the right thing. Have the archaeologists come in, invite them in. You might have to stop construction for a little bit. You're probably not selling the condos in pre-con in this market anyway, so just hang out for a little bit. Pay your carry costs. Build a museum. Hell, you know what? That's what Ken Billions would do. He'd offer to build a museum. Let's put all if all the developers got together and created a consortium and they said, hey, we're gonna fund the Condo Development Archaeology Foundation. So every single time we dig a hole and we find a bone or a rock or a stick or an axe, whatever, we're gonna put it in here so the people can see it. It's gonna be on display. It's gonna be so fucking awesome because we make so much money. And it'll just go away. But until they do that, it's gonna show up in the Herald every freaking time. And if they catch one of these developers hiring cousin Paco, and I'm just saying his name is Paco. I don't know if any developer has a cousin named Paco. This has nothing to do with you. But if the community finds out that you hid this and swept it under the rug, oh man. I hope if you do that, this is to the ether, not to anyone in particular. If you do that and they find out, they being the community, us, I hope they stop your project for 3 years. I hope you get a 2 roads treatment over there at Biscayne 21. Just do the right thing.
Well, and and to your point, you get Ken Billions who wants to get rid of that house that he's got right there on Biscayne Bay.
I've him pick up the house. Flack for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Have him pick up the house, dump it in Overtown where he wants to get rid of it or wherever he wanted to. Take all of the remains, put it all in the same thing, and everybody's happy.
That's different.
I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
I'm being sarcastic.
So what Peter's referring to is Ken Griffin bought a house.
He bought 2.
Well, it was 2 houses, but it was the Arch Estate for $108 million a few years back, which seemed like a lot of money back then, but now you got everything going on in Indian Creek. That seems like a small pittance.
You got a $120 million condo going up at the Waldorf Astoria, a freaking condo.
$65 million
sorry to interrupt,
triplex
go
at
ahead,
the SMR. No, not by any means. But the Ken Griffin thing is different, and I'll tell you why. Because the house wasn't underground. They weren't excavating.
No, I'm not criticizing him. I'm saying take his problem, because remember he was going to pay to have it jacked up, put on a flatbed, and take it over to Overtown. Yeah, so take it over there. Listen, why don't they dump it in the park where the Setner family, who wanted to take over the park in order so they could have recess for their private school? Yeah. You remember the guys who, if you were a teacher and you got vaccinated, they fired you. Remember the big reports about that? Yeah. So take that park, put everything over there, and then everybody's gonna be happy. I'm being sarcastic. No, listen. At the end of the day, the big deal, and don't forget, there was another site. There's a site on the north bank of the river where they put up the Met 2. Where the cinema is and stuff. So they found it all. Yep. So you had that site. You had the Miami Circle. You got what's going on here. Like you said, it's all around. It is an issue. But the problem is when they work in cahoots with the city of Miami, according to the Miami Herald, they request information. This information is supposed to be readily available. The developer, according to the article, as well as the city, working to keep it quiet from anybody and everybody. Again, transparency. Just say what you're going to do. We know it's going to get rammed down our throats. Just tell us what you're doing. Why are you trying to play this game thinking that you're smarter? They always think they're smart. They're the smartest people in the room. And that's the part that just pisses me off.
Look, for what it's worth, what's the percentage of reporters and gadflies that are left than when you?
No, dude, everybody's been blown out. Everybody's been blown out, and they realize it.
There's no reporter making. First of all, the reporters are probably getting paid as much as they were in the 90s without inflation. And even at that, with the appreciation in the market, where the hell are they going to live? So,
Yeah.
you know,
But I mean, just put it out there. What are you so afraid of? City of Miami, what are you afraid of? George Perez, related group, what are you afraid of? You guys do go to all these measures, according to the Miami Herald article, to keep it quiet, keep it under wraps, refuse. The Miami Herald had to bring in a First Amendment attorney to argue freedom of the press, freedom of speech, all kinds of stuff, according to the article. Dude, what are you afraid of? Just put it out there. We know you're going to jam it down our throat, so go ahead and do it. I don't think anybody would say, no, we can't have another condo on this site. No, not at all. It's just let everybody know what's going on. Market can trade if it has the information, but when they try to take steps to hide it from people, it just leads you to believe that maybe there's an Epstein list. That's what I'm saying. When you just put it out there and everybody can make their own decision, but when you're hiding it, you immediately have to jump to some sort of conspiracy.
So, and I'm curious now, and we're about up a time on this topic because this is going to transition us to the next one. Are we buying, selling, or holding this? And the question is, are we buying that developers right now, present day, July 11th, 2025, are they being as honest and as good as they can when it comes to this archaeology stuff? And by the way, I'm not an archaeologist. I'm not a conservation freak, crazy person. If you want to cut down a tree because you're trying to build something, cut down the tree. But I'm going to say this, and this happens. My sister's a landscape architect. She's fantastic. But when a developer cuts down a tree, a big tree, 100-year-old tree on Brickell Avenue or wherever it's going to be, and then the result of cutting down that tree, they have to plant another tree. Dude, a seedling does not have the same value as a 75-year-old oak tree. It doesn't provide the same shade. It's not pretty. I don't understand how that is the rule.
Yeah, but that's an example of what goes on. The city, remember, listen, go back to 2000 Census Bureau. Miami was the poorest big city in the United States. That is what prompted Manny Diaz, the mayor of Miami at the time, the guy who's the father of his son. He used to run the University of Miami, was the head coach. Same Manny Diaz. So because we were such a poor big city and development was going on all around, we had a hole in the donut. He comes forward with something ultimately that passes called Miami 21, which basically is promote development. Why? No state income tax. How do you fill your coffers? Real estate taxes. So we all understand this is what has to happen in order for us to go forward. There's no question about it. But don't think you're smarter than us. Don't think we can't figure this stuff out. Don't think that you're immune. Let it be known. Let the public have an understanding of what's going to happen. But when they play these games, it's like going into the Grove or going into Biscayne 21 and thinking you're going to steamroll your way through it. And some people just might do it just out of pure grit. They might just fight back because they're fed up with it, and they just they're not going to put up with it. And this is what we're faced with.
The courts have said that those people who are gritting their teeth, if the condo deck says what the condo deck says, they have precedent. That's what a contract is for. It's a legal document.
It's written down. Pay them off to make them go away, or bend the knee and have them JV with you.
The thing is that they only budgeted $20 million for the payoff, Peter.
Raise the prices. We're the gateway to Latin America. We got 1,000 people a day coming to Florida. Raise the price.
No,
dude, add an extra 1,000 a foot on it. Put 1,000 a foot extra.
10% of our foreign buyers are 10% of our condo buyers are foreign this year. It's the foreign buyer pool is dried up, and anybody else are sending off to Alligator Alcatraz. So how about the circle of life there? Property taxes, development, immigrant buyers. We need immigrant buyers, not to work in the tomato fields, but to buy condos at the Mandarin.
Why? Because they're going to pay the taxes. If you're dropping $1,200 a foot, and your property taxes are 2% annually, and you're not homesteaded because you're not a Florida resident,
$120,000 a year.
They're not sending their kids to school. They're not, how much road are they consuming in terms of potholes getting fixed? It's a winning proposition. But just tell us. We realize we're going to be building. I mean, this city was incorporated in 1896. This is a young city. we don't know a lot about what we don't know. But what I will tell you is the longer we play this Gangs in New York, if you've seen the movie, and that's really what this is. This
Great
is a Gangs in
movie.
this is a Gangs of New York battle where everybody's trying to get the upper hand and do that. Why doesn't everybody work just in unison? Hey, we found this piece of dirt. We know there's probably remains there. If we have it, give us a way to deal with it, and let's go forward and build it because everyone's going to benefit. You're going to have jobs. You're going to have appreciation. You're going to have everything else in and around. So that's the part that I just don't get. I mean, maybe the market just sort of passed them by in terms of trying to hide this.
So
old school ways of doing it.
I'm selling it. I don't buy it. I don't think they're doing the right thing. As of
100%.
Today,
I'm in your camp.
do better.
Do better.
So maybe they will, because there is a next generation of developers here. Everybody likes to talk about Nicky and JP, sons of George Perez. He's handed the reins of Related Group of Florida to them, but they're not the only ones. If you're a recent arrival to Miami, you've probably heard David Martin this, Tara that. But David Martin is the son of somebody. Well, we're all sons of somebody, but we're talking about the real estate development kingdom of South Florida. Russell Galbert. He doesn't have a son, but he has a daughter. She's actually jumped into the cruise business. She thinks that her thesis is that everybody's going to want to live on a cruise, and we're going to put a bunch of Starlinks, and everybody's going to work remote. MG developer Diego Torrealba. He's another child.
Don't forget Alan Morris. Alan
Morris. Spencer's running the company now. So
Gil Deser.
There you go. So has Next Gen come into the fold with lessons learned and continuous improvement, and are they going to repeat some of the great things and some of the mistakes that their parents have made? Or is
but Daniel, I think you should set the scene. Like, why are we talking about this now? Can you show us the clip, or can you read something from that article, just to sort of kind of set the scene? Because people are like, why are you?
So the Wall Street Journal came out.
I don't think it was was it Wall Street, or was it like Fortune or something? I think it was Fortune magazine.
Oh, it was Fortune. Fortune, come on, Peter. It's Fortune. It's like Business Insider. All right, so Fortune, Forbes.com, whatever it was, I think it was Fortune. But
there we go. I'm pulling it up. Let me just pull it up real quick. I should have had it handy.
It said Related Group in one word of the headline, and nepotism was in the other word of the headline.
No. Here we go. Okay, so it's Fortune magazine. Fortune headline: $40 billion real estate tycoon made his son get an MBA, work elsewhere, and climb the ranks for 13 years to prove that he's not a nepotism hire. According to Fortune, it was published July the 5th in 2025. Bullet point: billionaire real estate tycoon George Perez put his two millennial sons through a nearly 20-year-long succession plan before handing over the reins as Related Group CEO in March. John Paul being one and Nick being the other. I don't want it to be like John Paul and Nick. So it's two of them, John Paul and Nick, now leading the empire, managing a $40 billion development portfolio. Had to get an MBA, worked for a competitor for 5 years, and worked their way up the ranks by making his kids cut their teeth on the industry. They skirted nepotism, criticism, and family drama. What do you say there, Daniel? Have they skirted the nepotism claim? Any of them?
Well, they had to write an article about it. So, if they wrote an article that said, this is why Peter Zalewski doesn't have any hair because he doesn't want any hair, then I'm starting to ask why he doesn't have any hair.
Yeah, but dude, but okay, riddle me this. When you hire a PR firm, they go out there and pitch a story. Remember Ken Billions? He had Bloomberg come down and talk about his brand new office tower, which, by the way, we are another week into Q3, and he's supposed to break ground this quarter.
We should replace the mortgage ticker with like a KGT,
how many days?
Ken Griffin Tower countdown. How many days are left in Q3?
So, but because I was a journalist so long, 13 years. So because I was a journalist, I was an editor and stuff like that. When you see a story like this with that headline, that says to me that they probably had a PR firm go ahead and reach out to try to get some publicity. Now, why are they trying to get some publicity? Why are they putting nepotism? Why is nepotism coming in? Because
why is it even in the headline?
Yeah, but why write the story? You have to look past that. there's probably some sort of play. They're probably maybe they're being doubted. Maybe there's situations where if George is really stepping aside and the kids are taking over, maybe they need to somehow build the street cred. I'm just saying this type of article would not typically, unless it's an advertorial where you're paying to have it written. This story's not written unless there's some bigger meaning to it. And so ask yourself, why are they writing the story?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that story and the archaeological dig story came out in the same week, because if for nothing else, everybody's eyes are on the St. Regis right now because of those two stories. Yep. I'm not sure how sales are doing at the St. Regis. If you ask a sales director, it's probably 70%, because that's
it's 70% all day long.
That's if you ask any sales director.
We're raising prices.
Yeah. So listen, it's a pretty project, and I say pretty not because I don't have any other word. It's a pretty project. It kind of reminds me of the Grosvenor House in the Grove. Yep. It's got a very
wow. So you're saying a George Perez related project is on par with an Ugo Colombo?
I said it looks like it, Peter.
Okay.
It has the same look. If you look at it from the side, it has the same sort of seafarer's silhouette to it. It looks like a ship. I mean, it's designed to look like a ship. Yep. And it's like projecting itself onto the water. Marketing hoopla aside, I do think it's a nice project. If it's selling, that's a whole other thing. But let's go back to your Fortune article. Listen, I think and I hope that they do fine and they do great, and that they progress in this market and they do many great things in the condo development market. I hope that for all developers, for all retiring developers, for their kids, their next gen developers. But to your point, I don't see an article written like this for Galbut's kid.
David Martin.
I don't see it for David Martin.
I mean, I saw one when his father had all kind of problems, Pedro Martin, but I haven't seen one for David taking over.
And you know what? Maybe they just hired a shitty PR firm.
No. Related uses. I know some of the people. At least I know some of the people used to do it. No, they're very precise. Their strategy involved. Maybe this reporter
why
just
didn't
stumbled upon
Bloomberg
it.
pick it up, Peter? Fortune magazine.
Well, because Bloomberg was too busy talking about how Ken Griffin is going to be putting up this $1 billion office tower breaking ground this quarter.
The reporter interviewed George Perez on the penthouse of his penthouse.
Dude, listen, when the reporters in New York, they're basically bending the knee to Wall Street guys. When reporters come down here, they're bending the knees to the developer. But here's the question. So they come out with the story right now saying that JP and Nick, who are the sons of George Perez, have taken over and there's no nepotism involved. Who cares if there is? But the question is, why are they doing it in July? Reporters typically write these stories when they got an excuse to get on a plane and come on down when it's cold as hell. Well, that doesn't make sense. But when it's cold as the Arctic in New York, so they have a reason to come down. Why are you writing this story in July unless there's a bigger picture? I'm not talking conspiracy. I'm talking about the way the journalism world works. This story in July,
this is a trend.
There's got to be a purpose. There's a purpose here somehow, some way. Well, I don't know what it is.
Then why didn't the Bloomberg reporter, when she was here
because
2 months ago?
Because it's not news.
No,
this stuff is not news.
She was filming that segment. Oh, so you're saying that this is the
this
beginning
is not
of a
news.
Piece?
This is filler. This is the type of stuff that
PR
people pitch.
Piece? That was filler.
Of course it was filler. I'm not saying it's
not. Let's go
on
the boat.
But I'm just wondering. There's a bigger point here. We're going to see it. There's a bigger point as to why they're doing a story right now. I don't know what it is, but there's a bigger point, because you do not write this story in July. This is a story when the reporter can get on a plane, come down here, enjoy the weather, interview a couple of different people. You don't come down here to do this story. I'm assuming they probably did it on the phone or Zoom anyways, but the timing is just really, really strange. It's got my spidey sense going as a former journalist.
All right.
But does nepotism happen? 100%. What family?
Of course, if I had a son, why wouldn't I want to give
what about
the entire
brokers?
World to him?
What about one Sotheby's? What's the broker's name? Her name's escaping me. She's got her kid running the day-to-day. One Sotheby's. I'm blanking on it. Sorry. Doing a lot of the pre-construction. My Uh, no. Okay. Well, we'll skip it. I'm just saying. What about Severa? Alicia
Severa.
Severa Jr. Her mother started the business.
The Jills.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know anything about the Jills, but I'm just saying this stuff happens. It's not that big of a story, but they try to hide behind, well, they did this and they did that. Come
It
on.
is what
I
it
mean,
is. Who
again,
gives a shit?
but
It's
don't,
cool. Look
but
what the Trump family's doing. They're all Nepo kids.
yeah,
Fuck. And they're rich. Great.
exactly, exactly. What's the big deal? But why do they always think they're smarter than us? This is the part that I just, it really. This is the part where when they think they're the smartest people in the room. They always
Was
do.
it? Didn't he work for Related New York? Is that the competitor?
Oh, I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I mean,
All
I'm
right,
sure
forget I said
everything is
anything.
like interconnected. It's a small little, I registered and I at some point I'll finish the book. Started a book about Miami condo market. The name is Miami Condo Cartel.
It's a good
And
name.
basically it's about different cartels. It's kind of a catchy way to talk about. There's different, I compare it to like Western Pakistan. Remember during the right after September 11th, and you had this battle in Afghanistan, and you had all these different warlords in Pakistan where the government couldn't control it, but you had these little fiefdoms where everything had to be done. That's pretty much how the condo market works in South Florida, from my perspective. You have different groups, and they go around and they do different things. Everybody recognizes it. It's just, why are you bringing it out, and why are you trying to like make us think something differently that we can obviously see? Carlos Rosso used to run Related. Carlos Rosso no longer runs Related. George Perez's kids run Related now. No big deal. Carlos is going on.
Carlos
He's building
Rosso's
stuff.
fine. He's doing his thing.
Yeah, but why do you got to spin it? Because everybody's saying it anyways. But to go ahead and have a story written about it, or to force that story, I don't
You
know.
know what
That
I
makes
think it
sense.
is? I think the whole nepotism thing just has a negative connotation. It doesn't have to. So what?
No,
We've
of
had
course not.
kingdoms, we've had monarchies, kingdoms, son to father to son to
Francis
grandson.
Suarez, the mayor of Miami.
Oh,
His old
shit.
man was the freaking mayor of Miami.
No,
Regalado.
but he became mayor in his own right, dude. Like
I know, but I'm saying, but
bootstrapped.
he's playing off the family name, Regalado. We got a
I'm being
county
sarcastic.
commissioner.
Now I'm being sarcastic.
No, but this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. What's the big deal? Don't hide it from us. Some people want that brand. Again, like I say, you go to the horse
No,
track.
but
You bet
you
the
know
horse,
what?
you bet the number, you bet the jockey.
You
This is a
you
jockey.
hit the nail with the hammer. Why not just lean into it? Be like, hey, you like what my dad did? I do that too.
Yeah, exactly. This is the part that doesn't make sense to me. There's something more there. It'll emerge. It'll
Well,
surface. Trust me.
maybe it's just it's an executive PR campaign. They're trying to put his name out there, so he's not
Why
just
are you doing it
George's
in
kid.
July? Nobody gives a shit in July though.
Well, maybe
That's the
maybe
reality.
that's all.
They're
That's
getting
the
ahead of
only
something.
editor. That's the only editor that would pick it up.
No, they're getting ahead of something. They're getting ahead of something.
Ooh, don't say that. That's
I'm
negative.
just saying,
That's
you
negative.
always
Are
come
you?
up with, dude, you always come up with this type of story before some other story falls. It
What
always, think about it.
So are you buying that?
Am I buying the fact that kids of their parents who are developers are going to go forward and be successful and probably be able to tap into their parents' relationships? Yeah, I think that's a winning combination. I think that's going on forever
But
and
I
ever.
think it's I genuinely think it's a good thing. Look, in a city like Miami that is so relationship based and arguably pretty corrupt,
Yep.
why wouldn't you want to leverage the connections of your family to get progress? And if we're fans of progress, which we are, I'd rather somebody who knows how to do it, who knows how to navigate those waters, who can pick up the phone and call Uncle George and say, hey, I need this done. Can you help me get this done? Rather than just a bunch of people coming in from out of Miami. Nobody knows what's what. They're like chickens with their heads running around, chickens with their heads cut off running around. That's when nothing gets done. And that's where I think corruption really flourishes. But if you have workflows and processes and this is the way things are done, and I'm not saying that everything's perfect. We have problems. But we can build buildings. We can tap into that cycle of development, grows the city, right. Property taxes, let's get it done. And by the way, let's take those archaeological remains and put them in the museum. But that's for another week. Maybe Bob Carr's
Well, yeah, but to that point, though, and I know we're over time, but to that point, this should have been an example of when the kids who were millennials, they should have stepped up and said, okay, listen, my old man, he tried to hide it, he tried to do whatever. This is my opportunity to go ahead and make a statement to the community. Maybe this is in response to, this story coming out. I don't know, but this, but
Could be.
these are their opportunities to differentiate themselves
Could
from
be.
the way their parents used to do it.
I'm buying. I want them to do well.
Yeah, I do. I do too, but transparency. That's what I want. Bring transparency.
So it's transparent, and this is just a terrible pun I'm about to make, is the new building that WideTech proposed on Broadway. I don't understand why it's called Broadway, because is it because there's a median on that street? Because it is Miami Avenue and Northwest First Avenue.
We're talking about Brickell Avenue area, right?
We're talking about Brickell Avenue. I'm going to pull it up on the map right now,
Yep.
so you can see.
We're talking about between 15th Road and Coral Way, or 13th.
Yeah, no, we're talking about right behind the Publix.
Yep.
Right behind the Publix. What's his name? Yamal Yidios.
Okay.
Am I pronouncing that right? WideTech. He's the guy putting up 1428.
Yep.
Okay. So Yamal Yidios is putting up 1428. It's my favorite. If we're picking favorites, and maybe we are, it's my favorite project in Brickell. And sorry if I'm kind of spacey, because I'm trying to get the screen share going with you. But if everyone can see that, if you can see that, we have 3 viewers. I hope you guys can all see this. But we're going to take a little flight here, and we're going to go right over here behind the Cipriani. So this here, the circle that connects South Miami Avenue into the Central Business District.
Yep.
Now, that's where Cervera's headquarters is. And so when I was first reading about this,
are they still occupying it? Because she had a fire in her IT room.
They're there.
They're back in there. Okay.
They're there. But when I was reading about this and I saw the address, I go, oh, he must have bought the whole block, because that's what you do when you're 1428. The lot that 1428 is getting built on is like 2.5 acres. It's 100,000 square feet. I figured, oh, he bought the land from Cervera and he's developing the block. No, folks, it's just the westernmost parcels. It's 2 parcels. 9,000 and 5,000 square feet approximately. He's going to put up 113 units and 54 floors. He got the rights to build up to 80, which I don't know why he wouldn't maximize that. But he's going to put up 113 units proposed, so it's not happening, and he hasn't even launched pre-sales, but he's got the renderings. I'm going to pull those up for the gang now, and it's just a big glass tower. It looks like something that they would build in New York, because that's the kind of footprints we're talking about in New York.
It sounds kind of like glass. You said glass. It reminds me of the glass project.
Yeah,
over
it's
in South Beach.
transparent. I mean, you can see right through it. It looks like a fishbowl. It's kind of got the same smooth designs as 1428 has, which I said. It's aesthetically, it's my favorite pre-construction development going up. From the ultra luxury price point, I think the blend you can still get in, and you're gonna laugh me out of the room on this, but I think you can still get it for about $2,200 a square foot, which is a bargain compared to St. Regis and Mandarin Oriental. I think it's a great project. It's not waterfront, but 70 something stories up, you can certainly see a lot of water. And this project, so you see here on the bottom left, Peter, that's where the Publix is.
Yep. No, I can picture it. I can picture it well.
And the Cipriani, I do like how they covered that whole parcel there on the left in foliage.
Yeah.
Because that's where Cipriani is, I think, now 10 stories tall. So kudos to you, landscape architecture designer, because that's not what that looks like today.
No, not at all. I mean, listen, it's in and around the certain parts of Miami. Remember earlier I mentioned Manny Diaz, the mayor.
Yeah.
So when they went forward, they were all about pro-development, because again, we were the poorest big city in the country after the 2000 census. I'll never forget it. You might have heard me tell the story. Miami New Times at the time, when people used to read an actual hard copy newspaper, they came out with a story saying we're number 1 because we were the poorest big city. So we had to get development going. There's parts of Miami, Daniel, 1,000 units per acre. Dude, think about this. 1,000 units per acre is what you can ultimately build on some of this type of stuff, as long as you have access. Yeah, as long as you have access to public transportation. and then you throw in live local, which is the state law that overrides local zoning as long as you're providing a certain percentage of affordable housing.
Well,
So
the city of Miami is I think they're talking about it, about pushing through some zoning changes that would allow taller buildings. I think 12 stories within 1 mile of transit, regardless of live local. This is a municipal code change.
yeah, and I'm all for it. I have no problem with this whatsoever. And everybody's going to try to shoehorn it, but it's all about timing. Is the timing right? Are you actually going to put a shovel in the ground? Well, we're still waiting to see if Ken Griffin is able to put a shovel in the ground on his $1 billion office tower, which he bought 2.5 years ago, and has announced he's putting up in Q3. If he puts a shovel in the ground, then I would imagine this developer would put a shovel in the ground. This to me sounds more like an entitlement play. You buy the piece of dirt, you can screw up somebody else's plans, you can sell over the entitlement rights, you can do whatever you're going to do. I mean, think about what it's going to entail for the construction to go ahead and put up, what'd you say, 70-story tower?
No, this one, 1428 is 70 something stories, but that's on a 100,000 square foot lot. This is 113 units, 54 floors up on 14,000 square feet.
Okay, so 54 stories and how many 100 and something units?
113.
113 units. So what are we talking? 2 units per floor, basically, or some of them will have 3 because of the penthouse. And then this reminds you of a building out in Sunny Isle called Muse. You ever been in Muse? You ever seen Muse? So in Muse, what do you got? About 20 stories of parking garage. So you're going up this tight ramp, kind of like.
No, it's not that many. Really?
It's at least 10.
Wow.
You're going way the hell up and up and up and up and up. This to me, I don't know. Maybe he built it, but think about the cost associated with building that high and so few units. These units are going to have to trade for a significant amount. And what is the sales proposition? Why would I go to Cipriani? Why wouldn't I buy in one of these vintage buildings, actually on Brickell, on the water? Why don't I go into Una?
These developers foresee, and we've talked about this in the past, that the arrivers here, and I'm calling them the arrivers, they're like the travelers from the future, right? The early arrivers here, the post-COVID transplants who have come here, and we've looked at the numbers, and I keep on bringing this up, but it wows me that we keep on seeing these prices. These are not Brazilian investor prices. A Brazilian investor, an Argentinian millionaire, he's not spending $25-30 million on Key Biscayne. These are American wealthy people. We still are the wealthiest country in the world, and wealthy Americans are coming here and they're buying product. They've bought product, and it's YTech, it's Mr. Yedios' hypothesis that we are just getting started. Now, he just proposed it. They got some renderings done. Anybody can get renderings done. I get that. When they finished the pre-sales at 1428, which, by the way, I don't know if you've been to the sales center at 1428. He did a really smart thing. He bought the house next to, you know where Chateau Zizi's is? That chateau there on Brickell Avenue.
Casey Piquet recently did a piece. He's a local historian. He recently did a piece about the history of that house. So yeah.
So he bought that, I think, for $6 million and change several years ago, and that's where Chateau Zizi's is. I don't know why it's a Mexican restaurant, Chateau Zizi, whatever. But next door, that's where he put the pre-construction sales office for 1428. And when he's done with 1428, he's going to have an interior designer wipe all that out, and he's going to put in the innards of a unit.
You're buying the property at a good price. You're paying an attractive price for the dirt. Maybe you're going to get it entitled. Maybe you're stepping in. You're pulling a Russell Gelbit. Market goes to shit. You're buying it cheap. You're going to sit on it until you can do something. That's typically kind of the plan. Now, I don't know what was paid for this dirt, but you got to look at where we are in the cycle.
He paid Russell Gelbit for the dirt.
Yeah, Russell Gelbit just sold the headquarters from Crescent Heights.
42.
I mean, million. Is this the time you want to plant your flag and start accumulating dirt, knowing that if we go through a recession and a pullback, land is going to go down significantly in value because there's nothing you can do with it? And short of opening up a Wynwood Yards where you bring in a couple roach coaches or food trucks and you sell some booze, there's nothing you can do with dirt. But what are you going to do? You're going to make it a nursery? What are you going to do with the dirt?
There's been lots in Wynwood where they've been shuttling in those roach coaches, as you so eloquently put, for a decade. 2 decades. What am I kidding?
But this is the point. I mean, land just sits there. Somebody wrote something to me on Nextdoor. You know where the Paraíso is? You know, the
Yeah,
Paraiso
on
project up on
34th. No,
yeah,
no.
something like that. In the 30s on Biscayne East Side.
Yeah.
Dude, that one Paraiso, that was supposed to be a project called Ice, which probably wouldn't have a very good name recognition
Awful,
now.
awful,
But
awful branding.
but it was called Ice. They actually had rebar in the ground. The grass all grew around it. So I'm just saying, when the market goes sideways, you can pick up dirt
Well,
cheap, dirt cheap. So
that's what Mass Capital did with Cipriani. The
hundred
Chinese owned
percent,
that for a decade.
yes,
It was
100%.
a
And
2 acre hole in the ground, and
yep,
then Mass came in. They did Cipriani. It's up and at 'em. Actually, I know I keep on saying the foreign buyer thing, but a good chunk of those buyers, I'm under from a good source that something like a third of the building was bought by a bunch of Mexicans.
oh, I'm sure. Plus, you got
No, but
Messi in there, right? Isn't
that's
that
interesting
reportedly the
because
Messi building?
Mexicans the Mexicans typically don't come to Miami. If you look at
Yep,
the Latin American foreign buyer pool, 18% Argentina, a little less Colombia,
yeah,
Brazil, and then you have a bunch of other countries thrown in there.
yep,
Mexico, which
yep,
is
yep.
the largest Spanish speaking country in Latin America, they're not. I don't even think they break like 5%. Mexicans, the wealthy ones from capital, from Mexico City, they like Dallas, they like LA, they like New York, but for whatever reason, some very shrewd broker went down there and sold them that Cipriani project. And I don't know if they went into a country club or something, and it went on like wildfire. And somebody did very well selling Cipriani to Mexicans.
Well, I mean, but keep in mind, the original owner of that dirt for the condo project could be called Capital Brickell was Mexican. That was a Mexican group, and then the kid who was running it, part of the family business, had a heart attack and died at the beginning of the Great Recession, and that's when they lost
That's
Everglades
when
on
the
the Bay, which
Chinese came
became
in, the Chinese Cities Construction Corporation, right?
yeah. So what you had is you had Cabby. Cabby's the name, and they're out of Aventura. So they put up the what would become the Biscayne because they lost that project.
Oh,
It
the
was
two
Everglades on the
towers there
Bay.
in downtown.
Yeah. And then they also had the site where they were going to put it. It was going to be called Capital Brickell. So they were sitting on it. Kid has a heart attack. Who's
I
running it?
remember
It's like
that Project Capital.
39, 40, whatever. Then the Chinese
Awful.
end up buying it. I think that I don't. It went to court. They bought it. I think they bought it out of the court if memory serves me correct. And then they couldn't do shit with it because the numbers didn't work. But they bought it at a decent price at the time. So it's kind of like a Genting type of situation.
Right.
You got the
Different
dirt.
Chinese
What am I going to do with it?
firms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this development, I mean, kudos to them if they think they're actually going to do anything. I think it's a land play. I think it's a land bank. I think they probably
You're
paid too much
holding. You're
where we are in
holding.
the cycle. Dude, bring some roach coaches in and sell some booze. Maybe you'll generate some revenue. Turn it into a parking lot. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But if you're going
All
to go
right, we're
vertical
holding
in
it.
this market, we got 25 months of supply in Central Business District of Miami. We got Brickell, 20 months of supply. Who the hell are you going to sell this stuff to? And why are they going to buy in your site rather than Cipriani, where they can ride the elevator with Lionel Messi, reportedly?
I don't know. But we will leave you all with that. Sorry about the technical little blow up there, but we kept live on YouTube. It didn't just kill the stream. Guys, my name is Daniel Hernandez. I'm joined with this gentleman right here, Peter Zalewski. He's doing a condo walking tour tomorrow. Where's the condo walking tour kicking off from, Peter?
We're going to meet at the Wilkie D. Ferguson Jr. Metro Mover Station in the Central Business District, basically right by the Bright Line.
At
Bright
what
Line
time?
entrance. We're doing it at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. If you want to learn anything about condos tomorrow morning and you're not too hungover, you're not scared to sweat, go meet Peter at 10 o'clock at the Metro.
But you got to buy a ticket. You got to go online to buy a ticket.
It's not free like this podcast.
No. Yeah, because I give everybody a list of every single condo project. We teach them how to analyze buildings. You can see very easily.
That's a cool thing. But yeah, go buy a ticket. It's worth it. And if you want to buy the condo, well, Peter will probably sell it to you. But if you don't like Peter, call me. My name is Daniel Hernandez. I'm with Compass. Peter Zalewski, MiamiCondo.club. Go on the walk tomorrow. I don't think it's going to rain. We'll see you all next week, next Friday, 4 o'clock, as we are here every Friday. Maybe in a few weeks, we might even have a guest on. We got to talk about that.
Yep, I think we're getting there. I think September makes the most sense because August. Hurricane warnings and stuff like that.
Fortune magazine articles, nobody cares.
All right. So let me wrap up the cricket before we wrap this up. So playoffs tonight.
Always with cricket.
So playoffs are tonight, and then the finals, the grand final is on Sunday. We're gonna have Washington and probably either New York or Dallas playing Washington D.C. for the championship.
You know what's going to wind up happening is that this is going to become. We're just going to get people who want to listen to you talk about cricket in the beginning and at the end of every podcast, and I'm going to be like, why is the viewership spiking in the first 3 minutes and in the last 3 minutes?
The season ends this weekend, although the West Indies are coming to Lauderhill at the beginning of August. So I'll be talking about that a month from now, or 3 weeks from now.
See you, gang. Peter, I'll see you in a second. Everybody else, we'll see you next